All right, we're live on video. All right, good day and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another Live the Fuel show. So this evening, at least my time anyway, I'm bringing on, yes, yet another new co-host, or I should say two co-hosts. That's right, we're bringing on a happy couple. And this is breaking the mold, which I love to do on a regular basis whenever we possibly can. So your new guest co-host today, they are certified counselors, nationally syndicated writers, relationship and parenting experts, certified in Myers Briggs, that personality analysis stuff. We brought it up before on this show. I love this tagline: Millennial Translators, national speakers, authors of a #1 bestseller, 1 Billion Seconds. There's still time to discover love. And they're also podcast hosts, people. We're going to have some fun here today. So without further ado, let's get them on the show here. We got Poppy, that's right, Poppy, and Geoff, the relationship experts. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sky. It's great to be here, fellow podcasting friends.
I know, right? I was just at Podcast Movement in Philadelphia last week.
How was that?
We almost were there.
Well, so here I did the unconferencing where like I didn't actually buy a ticket. I just showed up because I live here.
Okay.
Right.
And I had business to take care of. I'm like, I didn't like the fact that they set it up in the middle of the week. I was like, okay, most podcast conferences, like I'll be speaking at one in September, also outside of Philadelphia, but that's on the weekend. It's like a Friday, Saturday, not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I was like,
Right.
okay, guys. So I was like, I got things to do. I'll just stop by in the evenings and catch up with everybody. So it was good. All the big shots were there. You know, John Lee Dumas and all the well-known people were there. A few people came over from the UK that I know. So I went to all the meetups. So I was, doing all the social networking and stuff like that.
Did you meet our friend Tyson Franklin?
I was just going to say the same thing. That's one of the things we do, by the way, all
He's
the time.
from
We think the same
Australia.
thoughts.
Okay. That's scary. And actually, let's go ahead and get this out there right here, right now. You have a very interesting iPhone case. So for the video feed for YouTubers, I got to show this off, ladies and gentlemen, on the camera feed. Let's go ahead and get that up there. So these two have been together for a little while. And apparently, sir, you've had that mustache for a long time.
40 years, sir.
So let's get the backstory. Let's get it out there ahead of time because you got you got all these credentials. You're a husband-wife, like dynamic duo team, which
We are.
I don't understand how you pull. I mean, everybody jokes around people shouldn't work together who live together. And I'm like, if you could figure out how to become that power couple, which clearly you have, there's something to be shared there.
Well,
right?
we do everything together all the time because of that picture that explains that we were apart. And if we could show that again.
Yeah.
We weren't together that whole time, Scott. We were apart.
Okay.
That whole time. 32 years. We were split up from our college sweetheart romance days.
Okay.
That beautiful little
First
Rollins
love.
College. First love.
First
Ooh.
guy. I'll go
Wow.
on the record, online, say the first guy I ever was intimate with.
Wow.
So
That's a heck of a track record.
Wait till 21 years old, too, by the way.
It doesn't happen much anymore.
No.
No, it is rare. I actually joke around people all the time. But people don't know this about me. Here's another random thing. I was a virgin till 24.
Wow.
See?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And people are like, get out of here. I'm like, no, I was a late bloomer. And also I was very work driven. I just didn't care. I did not allow any romantic stuff into my life. But that's a whole different, we can get to that later. Let's finish this up here.
Right.
So
anyway, we're college sweethearts, madly in love, dated the entire school year from the second week of school through the end. And just towards the end of the school year, I, being raised fairly conservatively, said, so what do you think will happen next year? I'm set to graduate in 7 weeks.
And I wasn't. I had one more year.
Oh, okay.
And so I lived in Wisconsin, Geoff lived in Ohio, and we were at school in Florida.
So my rocket fast mind, Scott, I said, what's going to happen next year? Well, I'm going to be back here. I'm going to be captain of the water ski team here at Rollins, having a great time.
Okay.
So,
not the answer she was looking for.
I was going to say, I'm not as good as you guys, but probably not the best response.
So I made an assumption, as many women ought to do, and men too. And I thought, oh, wow, he's just been like using me this whole year.
Oh.
For sex, or I'm just a filler until next year. I guess I'm not really that important. So soon after that conversation, I broke us up. And while we're breaking up, he is devastated. He's crying, and
We went from perfect to breaking up
Yeah.
in the one conversation. And I'm like,
Wow.
what are
That's
you talking
so
about?
clearly that sentence was not the sentence to say.
So we
Well-
even have a chapter in our book that we wrote
2 words.
called 2 words. If I had said, what will happen next year to us, that might have switched everything.
Then my rocket fast 21-year-old mind might have gone, oh, to us. Well, this is great. We're going to keep this going. We're going to make this happen.
We'll visit each other.
We'll do
It was
it.
the
yeah.
dark ages. We'll
Yeah.
write letters. We'll talk on the phone. So I made that assumption. I broke us up. As he was being, as Geoff was being very upset about this whole thing, I was thinking in my head, why is he upset? I was just a filler this year.
Right.
And
He wasn't
before
expecting
I
you.
could
Yeah.
say anything else,
I
he's
stormed out of her
on the
room
way
with
out of the-
my tail between my legs and ego smashed. And
Oh,
that-
wow.
that was the end of it.
and I'm saying, wait, let's talk about this. But he was too upset. And we never had another contact, anything, for 32 years.
Oh, wow. It was completely shut down.
that
Like
was it.
just
nothing.
flatline.
We never
You
spoke
flatline
again.
that sucker.
Yep. Well, part of the story too is because we broke up, an old high school flame kind of slid into the picture as she was
Mine.
graduating.
Oh,
And all of a sudden she got engaged even before school ended.
Yeah.
wow. That was fast.
Oh, and yeah, and her sorority held a little thing called a candlelight, where they kind of announced this in a secret little, candlelight ceremony.
You pass a candle.
Who's
Oh.
engaged? And her sorority house was right next door to my fraternity house. And so yours truly got to hear about the fact that this girl who I just broke up with just got engaged to someone else.
Ouch.
Oh, big ouch. And I was,
I mean, you already had the ouch. This is
Well,
like an amplified ouch.
this
Yes.
was like off the chart ouch. And I was like, well, that's that. Obviously, I didn't mean a damn thing to her. Excuse me.
So I love to throw fuel on the fire, so to speak,
Yeah.
on this show, but that's not the fuel of the fire that you were
No.
looking for.
No, this was, and I was an undergraduate art major. So I hid out in the art studio and just painted and was a mess. I was a
Wow.
mess. I had so much shame and guilt and trauma. I can't even remember it. I didn't have the words. I didn't have the right things to say to approach Geoff. We never had any conversation ever again until 32 years later. And so that is why we do what we do. It was like, what if we could help people have the right communication to resolve those challenges that come up in every relationship, whether it be personal, family,
Make
work
sure
related.
you ask those complete questions. Don't hedge your questions. Don't be careful about what you're saying. Ask what you're thinking and what is on your heart.
I'm always trying to work on that. It's funny you bring this up because I understand the value of communication from the professional world. I tell people all the time, my clients, I'm like, guys, like, it's one of the biggest things. If you could just work on communication within an organization, outside of an organization, from small to large, that's where it always falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
Always. But yet, why is it that somebody like myself doesn't always apply that to the romantic life? What's up with that?
Well, because I think when we get into our romantic life, we're so enmeshed in that relationship that we don't think about the linear, rational thinking that comes into that because there's so many emotions. So we don't think to apply that.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I'll give you an example. Do you know what your love language is and what your fiance's love language is? Do you know what a love language is?
I'll just know that in a lot of our disagreements or communication processes, I'm more of the visionary, and her common word is she's more of the realist. So
Okay.
does that help you a little bit?
Yeah, that helps a little bit, especially with like Myers Briggs, which I'm certified. Geoff is just almost finishing up being certified.
I love all that data stuff because I use that in the corporate world. We did I did a lot of professional coaching development.
Mhm.
I was involved in hiring. So I love that stuff to the point where now I don't think it's fully based on Myers, but you know, StrengthsFinder?
Of
Yeah,
course,
sure.
StrengthsFinder.
Love StrengthsFinder. I recommend it all the time. Love it. So,
Right. So
Yeah,
what are your
What is your
3 or
Myers?
4 highest strengths?
I'm a woo,
Woo.
according to StrengthsFinder. Yeah.
Winning
So,
people over.
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it's
Love
actually,
Number
I got to
two.
I'm blanking right now. You put me on the spot. But a funny thing is, I think I listed them on my LinkedIn just for fun because I had a buddy of mine who does not like to be online, but for some reason he'll go on LinkedIn. And one day he texts me and he says, "Why do you have WOO on your profile?"
Woo, woo.
I was like, I like trains, in a funny way. I'm like, no, it's like, have you ever done a strengths analysis? Because most people are focusing so much time on their weaknesses and they're spinning their wheels. I'm like, why not play to your strengths first? And then along the path, you learn, okay, I'm not saying don't work on your weaknesses, but you'll realize certain things you might just want to outsource, right? I mean, does this apply to romance though? Because I don't think you want to outsource too much.
I know we've talked about this earlier, but spending almost 10 years in the college classroom teaching psychology, we talk about why. Do you know why it is? And I know you mentioned that on one of your earlier podcasts. Why do people always look for what's wrong? Like if I have a very serious expression and I come up to you and I go, and I sigh, the natural response would be for you to say what's wrong.
Oh,
right?
is everything okay? Yeah,
Is
right.
everything
Something
okay?
like that.
You're
yeah.
all right.
Or you're just through breathing exercises. You're releasing energy.
I could be just doing that and I could have a very positive flow.
Yeah.
But but it goes back to the caveman. You probably already know this, right?
I'm big into the paleo studies, not just from a nutritional standpoint, but like understanding all of that, right?
So we have in our brains, it takes 4 negative comments or 4 negative thoughts to every 1 positive thought.
Okay.
We have to override 4 negative thoughts, 4 to 1 with a positive thought. We have to ramp up so many positive thoughts for ourselves, for one another.
Pops, you already got this guy looking to the library. He's already.
Well, apparently I edited my LinkedIn and I took it off. So, but I don't know why. I mean, I think I was just trying to, shrink some of the content. That's okay. I'm bringing up some of my strengths. I'm listening. Keep going. I'm going to get the answers you asked for.
We integrate Myers Briggs, birth order, love languages, Strengths Finder,
and our own proprietary tool, the emotional clock.
Oh, this is something you've patented, or
we'll go get
can you patent an emotional clock?
I'll show you.
Well, you trademark it, you don't patent it.
Oh, okay. I was going to say something illegal.
Yeah, it's something it's protected. It's something we actually created. Scott Poppy's going to grab one here. We have a brand new version that we just had made. It's down below there, Pops. On the.
I think my fiance and I might have to go through this and figure this out. So
it's a simple tool that we created when we wrote our book. We kind of talked about why do people not talk about things? What stops people? What do they need to do to make things happen when they talk? So we created this tool, the emotional clock. We'll get it up nice and tight here for you.
Nice.
So
okay.
The whole idea behind this, everything on the left side of the clock is what happens when you're not communicating, when you're not getting things done.
Anger, despair, anxiety.
And 6 o'clock is this magical spot at the bottom here, 6 o'clock.
Yep.
That's usually where people reach out to us, where they've hit a wall, where they're saying, I can't stand where I am in my relationship. I have to do something. And the only way they may move forward and find 7 o'clock relief. I don't mean to keep blocking your face there.
Oh no, I got it. No, you're fine.
7 o'clock relief is the key thing to move beyond and to have those hard conversations that either, in many cases, can either fix a relationship that's broken that you're afraid to talk about, or in many cases end a relationship that needed to go that direction anyways.
Interesting.
So one of the things that we, and you probably know this from psychology as well, is that when we have a tactile object in our hands, it automatically will reduce our cortisol levels.
Yes.
That we're not so highly stressed.
Because you're activating a different sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we created this handheld thing to actually get people, especially when they have embroiled emotions, right? It's like, if you ever get angry, your heart rate goes up, you're having a conversation with your loved one or a coworker or whatever it is, your heart rate goes up. And once it goes over 100, forget it. It's like you're communicating underwater.
You no longer.
That was me on Saturday.
There you go. Okay.
Let's hear it.
Because I did my first triathlon. I tried to do my first triathlon, and I have anxiety in water. It's funny because I posted a live Facebook video about this like afterwards, and also the training over the past 6 weeks because I never properly learned how to swim. And I'm a huge adrenaline junkie. So I've done,
Yes.
I'm a former wildland firefighter from out west, and that's what I did to leave the corporate space. I skydiving and mountain bike racing and rock climbing, you name it, I'll do it. I mean, right now we're planning a heli skiing wedding in Banff, Canada. Like we'll be flying in helicopters to a remote mountain and go skiing because I don't like traditional weddings. So, and this was her idea. I love it. So
for your wedding, you're going to do this?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that
So
sounds
are you
awesome.
gonna do your vows in the helicopter or?
Nah. I think we're gonna like just to make everybody, her parents and like the older guests. That's a nice way to put that.
Yes.
We're gonna like do it on the resort property. We'll like ski down a trail, and you can rent like a slope side deck, like a big deck area. Like, hey guys, let's just pull off. Everybody get out of their skis. Let's do this little ring thing, and let's go keep skiing. Like we're not. The whole point of this is like we're making people. We're not making anybody do anything. My family's not even going because I grew up very conservative and they don't do that stuff. Like they'll come to the after party, but we'll be in Alberta, Canada, and in Banff on Lake Louise.
Beautiful.
So only the people who have the confidence to go do something like that will show up. So, and apparently I only wanted like 20 people. Now there's like 40 people going.
Well, it's so unique and wonderful.
Yeah. But again, back to the point.
Yeah.
Anxiety. Don't know how to swim very well. Not good.
I'm going to guess that's not your strong leg of the triathlon.
No. To the point where I made it to the first buoy. Sort of. A lot of struggle. Yeah, it was not good. Just they pulled me out of the water. They said, listen, you're not going to complete this. It was only a 400-meter distance, mind you. Now I've never done open water swimming. Like I've done kayaking and I've done water skiing and all that stuff, but you got a life vest on. No big deal. You just sprint paddle to the boat. I've never done open water swimming. And the past 6 weeks, I've been training at a pool at an aquatic center with a coach. So it's not the same. I thought I could just show up and get it done.
So, as an adrenaline junkie, have you ever tried barefoot water skiing?
No. But I've had about a year or so ago, I had on a deaf barefoot water skier. So she was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think she's from Florida. So
probably is. This is like water skiing Mecca in Florida.
Yeah. So anyway, anxiety, stress, didn't matter what meanwhile, my fiance is doing the Olympic distance triathlon at the same event, her fifth one. So, which is why I signed up. Cause I'm tired of people telling me, I don't like it. People tell me like, hey, you're going to get around to doing this. You've done everything else. I'm like, yeah, fine. I committed a year ago to doing this. I just didn't really take, I think, early enough action on my training to help. I didn't realize the mental game was as severe as it was. Right. I think I underestimated my water anxiety, which then manifested as water panic Saturday morning.
Yes.
After that, crush the bike, crush the run. I'll bike hundreds of miles. I've done it. It's not a big deal. So it was it didn't go so well in the swim portion. So
did you have a bad experience as a child in the water that precipitated this, or?
No, I grew up as a farm kid. Never had water.
Okay.
When I was probably, I don't know, 4th grade, my parents started to have me go to the local pool for lessons. And then we moved from New Jersey to Pennsylvania to another farm and never took a lesson again. And then the first time I dove into a pool, I cannonballed into my neighbor's pool at 16 and then freaked out, got to the edge of the pool. And that's kind of, and I have jumped off of railroad trestle bridges over top of a river into a river. I've done all that, and then you just force your way to the shore and you're good.
Doggy paddle.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's not like I haven't done stuff in water. It's just proper swimming etiquette. No.
And training. It's just training.
It is. I just need more of it.
You're never too young.
So you haven't done scuba diving either, I imagine.
So this is why I'm making myself go through this, right? Okay. So we talk about the strengths, right?
Right.
I'm strong in many other sports. This is a weak sport that I've never spent time in. But as Kristen, my fiance, says, she's like, come on, this is a necessary life skill. You've done all this other crazy stuff. She's like, I would like us to be able to go scuba diving and not have to worry if you're going to freak out or not. And I said, that's a good point. I agree. I don't like having those weaknesses that could impact my lifestyle. Like, I don't want to be held back because of that, right? When that's something that I could totally work on and put the work in and eventually overcome it. And that's what I'm now committed to do. So.
Okay.
So one of the things that you talk about on your show a lot is that you talk about mindset, right?
Yes.
And so
it's come up more and more in the past year and a half.
I grew up being an artist, right? I would draw and paint and do all those things. And I was just with somebody the other day, and she said, I can't draw anything. I just, I can't. And it just, it always rankled me, especially when before I was teaching psychology, teaching art lessons to children who at age 10 would be completely decimated with their value of how they perceive themselves as artists. And I was like, hey, we can all do this. It is just a learned skill, to be able to do this, as is swimming, and it's just a matter of that and overcoming that fear and not being afraid of it just because it's unfamiliar.
Well, it's funny because I literally can't find the top 5 right now, but like my top 2 strengths, highest ranking, are positivity and woo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the mindset.
Same.
And it goes back to your point, right? It goes back to your point is you put enough reps in life. You don't have to be 40 like me, right? This goes for our 20-year-old listeners or our millennials out there. It's like, guys, like you put enough reps in, you keep challenging yourself, you're breaking those barriers down, and it does get easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point of putting in the reps,
right?
And whether it be physical or mental, especially the mental. So,
and the mental, you have to do, like I said, 4 to 1.
4 to 1.
4 positive thoughts to override
it's that
negative.
Caveman outrunning the saber-toothed tiger and everything else that's scaring the Jesus out of him.
So this is interesting. So, because like literally last week, I forget who I was recording with right now, but we were discussing the elements of the lizard brain, right? The fight or flight, the piece of our brain that protects us. So
that's 6 o'clock.
Oh, there we go. So I like to tie that back to, are you familiar with the book, The 5-Second Rule?
Yes.
So her book is powerful because like guys, like just pause for 5 seconds just to get past that lizard brain mental state. And you can then make a decision a little bit easier. You get past that fight or flight. That's at least per her book. I don't know if you would agree from a psychological standpoint or not.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, that's
absolutely
reasonable. Yeah.
We're talking to a charter member of the International Positive Psychology Association. I went to that first meeting of the World Congress in your city.
Oh,
where you live, in Philly.
It's people say I have a Philly accent. I live an hour and a half north, but hey, Philly, it's the closest major city. We'll go with that.
We've been to Philadelphia for a Green Bay Packers game, and I want to challenge the thought that it's the city of brotherly love. Not when you're wearing Green Bay Packers.
No. See,
but
you're in
the. Been worse. We could have been wearing cowboy.
The green, the shade of green, and I'm not an Eagles fan, but I've been to more Eagles games than Giants games because I'm a blue guy. But it's funny because most of my friends are Eagles fans. So the shade of green has changed over the years from a marketing standpoint. So if they don't see the entire jersey, you could be, it could be another Eagles fan until you see the yellow, and then obviously it's like, oh, wait a minute, no.
We noticed that when we were walking in, we'd see older jerseys. People often bring in very old, somewhat old, and somewhat new, and you can see the transition of color over the years, how it evolved. Yeah.
It cracks me up. But you are right. The last Eagles game I was at, it's been a few years. And I actually, not to get off the topic, but since you brought it up, it was such a bad example of appropriate fan psychology. I'll just say that. Like everybody's out tailgating, we're in our circle, and there's this loud, rowdy, other group of Eagles fans. And all of a sudden on the other side, this is the new stadium, on the other side of this really, really nice black, like metal iron fence, there's a father. It's a Washington Redskins game. That's what it was. And there's a father walking his 2 small children. They're all jerseyed up. And these dudes start verbally berating them.
Oh, my
and I'm
gosh.
like,
with the little kids?
Like the one kid's got to be 3. And the other kid might be 6 or 7. And they're just like with their dad, like going to a game. And then at one point, the guy gets up and like grabs a hold of the fence and starts yelling through it. Like, how do you bring your kids up like this? And blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
I'm like, what is happening right now? And I look at my buddies. I'm like, we have to do something about this. I know I'm not an Eagles fan, but that is not right. And,
Right.
we helped subdue the guy. But I'm like, clearly there was alcohol involved, which never helps in those situations. But
We
I'm like,
noticed one or
really?
two people there drinking, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's just like, really? Come on, guys. Like, he's teaching his kids a sport.
Mhm.
Yeah, he might be an opponent's team. Like, it's one thing. Do that with adults. Don't do that to kids. Drives me nuts. So
No,
it's not very positive.
totally agree.
Yeah. But
So
back on
the
point.
reason why I think I'm a Green Bay Packer fan is that growing up, I just have one sibling, an older brother, and it was so cold in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that my mother never wanted to go to the game, and my dad had season tickets. So at age
It is cold there.
It
7
is.
years old, I started going to the games with my dad, and it became a thing that was just with him. And my dad
Okay.
was a big athlete, and I was a tomboy growing up, and it was just like our thing. So I think that's why it's like this double whammy of significance for me.
Okay.
So that's why we named our dog Lambo. Had to.
Well, hey, the dog doesn't know any better.
Oh wow! Those
I was waiting to work that one in.
fighting words.
It's okay. I see. I'm not one of those crazy football fans.
Mhm.
Like I said, I've been to more Eagles games than Giants fans, and supposedly we have the worst rivalry out there. But we all come together when it's against the Cowboys. So
Yes,
Correct.
Yes.
there's a really common ground there for everybody. It cracks
Absolutely.
me up. So
Or the Vikings. Sorry.
oh, well, that's different. I mean,
The other trash
so
Vikings.
when I was fighting wildfires out west, half of my crew
Oh yes.
either came from Minnesota
Yes.
or Green Bay, or Wisconsin. Maybe I'm overemphasizing the.
No,
you're doing it very
you're
well.
right
Did
on
Did I
That's
do
point.
well? All right, because like I spent 2 years with these guys, and I'm just like Minnesota, like not Minnesota. Like no, Minnesota. I'm like okay.
Yeah.
And then Wisconsin. The one guy had a higher pitched voice, so it was like
Yeah.
Wisconsin. I was like, geez. It's like all right.
Oh, sure. If in Wisconsin, sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a few guys in my crew, so I picked up on some of the lingo.
This is great. So I want to know about your fiance and how you met.
Oh,
Because we
great.
didn't.
She loves when I talk about her on a podcast.
I heard that. Yeah.
So I will preface this by saying I was a bachelor for many years, and I would justify it by my corporate goals, business goals, career goals, very driven, blah, blah, blah. The firefighting was a good excuse. Like, oh, I'm in the mountains for a month on end. Like I should never explore a romantic relationship because it's not fair. That was my line. That was my line.
It was good rationale. That makes sense.
Sure. And I mean, probably I was still holding on to past breakup crap or who knows, or I just didn't care. And anyway, moved back here to the East Coast, and a mutual friend, this girl I actually went on one date with, and it didn't go well. But we stayed friends on Facebook. And I moved back, and you've got, 2 years from 2010 and 2011 of my wildland firefighting adventures and crazy photos and stuff. Then my life in Colorado afterwards, just rock climbing and hiking 14,000 foot peaks and mountain bike racing, like just big outdoorsy dude. And then apparently she had just gotten out of, my fiance Kristen had just gotten out of a 8 or 9 year relationship. And this girl says, oh, well, you got to check out this guy. He just moved back to Pennsylvania. And, long story short, Facebook is how we got together, because
Right.
this girl, I guess, as she calls it, Facebook stalked me because we're already friends. So Kristen could go look at all my stuff.
Sure.
Mhm.
And then this girl Facebook messages me her profile saying, hey, you should check out my friend Kristen. And apparently does the same thing. Like, okay, so she's like the matchmaker or whatever.
Right.
And the photo she sends me is her current profile photo post breakup was her ice climbing.
Wow.
So I was like, all right, this girl's really good at selling, because
Yeah.
so she was actually my insurance agent's front desk girl. That's how I knew her from years ago. The other girl. So anyway, so I said, you know what? Okay, we messaged a couple times back and forth. I reach out to her. I get the phone number, and I call her, which apparently you just don't do. That set me apart right there, because I'm old school. I'm like, I'm gonna pick the phone up and call you. I'm not gonna sit here and message and text you. So that was a win in my favor. It also made me look weird. Okay. Anyway, so I agreed to go have a glass of wine with her. So, and then we dated for a first year, and then she broke up with me, Poppy.
Oh, come on.
Because
Why?
I was not living in the moment. I brought this up on the show before. My vulnerability was non-existent.
Really?
Oh, you'd be proud of me. I'm not perfect. Trust me. If you talk to her right now, she'd be like, her exact line was, "Nobody ever trained you."
Oh,
And I'm like, I'm not a dog. What do you mean?
no,
She's like,
you do need training. Yeah.
she's like, were you never in relationships? I'm like, uh, you're my longest that 1 year, that was my longest relationship. I never, I told you I was a bachelor a long time. And so long story short, we gave it a year.
I'm gonna let her out. This is crazy.
Mindset. Is that your puppy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Usually Calvin the Coonhound is making the same noises. He's really loud.
He's just beating the door down in our bedroom.
Oh,
right
I don't care. See, I see
like,
people freak out about that stuff. I'm like, that's our lifestyles. We love dogs. Lambo just wants to say hi.
During the day, like if someone comes to the door, she'll explode with barking and it would just destroy the interview.
Oh, 2 hours ago, I was on a live webinar training somebody, and the mailman came late in the day. Well, then next thing, I mean, Calvin just howls for the mailman. So I was like, it's 4:00 in the afternoon. Why is he howling? And Kristen came in. She's like, oh, the mailman's here. I'm like, it's 4:00 in the afternoon. Doesn't he come at like 12? So
you want to meet the aforementioned Lambo?
She's a pain in the neck.
All right.
Is she a pain in the neck? What? All right, real quick. We brought her up. She's whimpering. So what breed?
She's a Shih Tzu. Here she is.
Oh, I have a friend who has a Shih Tzu. Yeah, she's a cutie.
She is a cutie.
Calvin's like 4 times your size. So we have an English red tick. We have an English red tick coonhound. So
cool.
Those are great.
Apparently they're rare. Like every time we're out, people are like, "Oh my god, is that a red tick?" I'm like, yeah. It's Kristen's.
Wow.
Anyway,
Okay, so,
back on track.
We're with Kristen.
Yes.
You're broken up for a year. What did you do?
She broke up with me. No. We were together for a year.
And
She broke it up because I wasn't letting her in.
Did you go to a 12-step vulnerability program?
No. So I'm a big self and professional development guy. So like it ends and it hurt me. And I was like, oh, like, and here's the worst part. She was so cool that all my friends liked her.
Uh-oh.
So post breakup, she's hanging out with my friends.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, oh crap. I let her into the inner circle.
What is the matter with you, dude? What's the matter? Come on.
I broke the rules. I let her in my inner circle. So that's awkward. Yeah, it was not going well. And so I sat down one day and I'm like, all right, this is driving me nuts. I'm worried. I literally unfriend her on Facebook.
Ooh.
And she takes offense to that. I've never unfriended anybody.
Show her. Yeah. Right.
Well, I couldn't see her in my news feed. I didn't want to see. I didn't know you can unfollow back then. So anyway, the next 3 months, I go deep into personal development from a romantic standpoint. I was like, wait a minute, Scott, you studied psychology. Why are you acting like this?
So how did you study this? What did you do?
Oh, I forget. I mean, I have a folder somewhere here. I'm like, I don't know.
This is a valuable thing here, Scott. You just cracked something here, you know.
Did you go to?
Oh, I tried journaling. I downloaded videos. This is probably right before I started getting hardcore into podcasts. I'm doing like relationship stuff, books, videos, like all kinds. Because like I realized it wasn't just her. I was actually struggling with living back here on the East Coast because of my crazy outdoorsy lifestyle from Colorado and the firefighting thing. I didn't realize firefighting had shifted me so far because that's a very, very hard lifestyle. I've talked about it on the show.
Of course.
There's fire in my logo because of the firefighting experience. Live the Fuel stands for Live the Fired Up Epic Life, because I've lived a pretty epic life in my standpoint. And I want people to realize that they can take these risks and take these challenges and get outside the norm, but be aware, which I wasn't, of the possible shifts that may happen. And I wasn't fully connecting with my family again and my old friends again. The head was still stuck in Colorado and out west. And I wasn't reminding myself that I learned to mountain bike and road bike and rock climb here on the East Coast, but everything was so amazing out there. So I was having this huge mental shift.
Yes.
And then at one point in my work, those 3 months, I realized, like, wait a minute. You've never opened up your heart in this self-work. Like, I was like, I've taken all these crazy risks. I literally risked my life as one of the elite hotshot wildland firefighters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, freaked out my friends, freaked out my own parents. I later found out after that adventure, like they actually said I was kind of selfish. There was some selfishness involved. Let's be real. But I had to do it. And I was like, wait a minute, I could put myself through all these crazy decisions, but I've never taken, I remember this thought, I've taken all these risks, but I've never risked my heart.
Right. Never
Wow.
a heart risk.
Now
right.
that is profound.
That's
I mean, I got chills talking about it right now. And I'm like,
No, you should. That is, if most guys would never take that leap and that step to say, you know, I can be all these brave things, but be brave to open my heart.
yeah. And that's where I realized, and that's because I started studying more about vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, I forget what I read, but I learned that actually vulnerability is very sexy when executed properly. So obviously there's a selling point right there. Like, oh, wait, I got a whole new game add on here.
and it's contrary to rational thought, but it's also very empowering.
Yes.
We even have an expression in our book.
With complete vulnerability comes absolute empowerment.
Look at you guys. It's just like, he just cues you up and you knock the pins down.
It's like,
this is really freaking me out. No,
no, it's so true. And back, you know, about 10 years ago, maybe it was 11 years ago, I reached out to Brene Brown, if you know Brene Brown, who does the vulnerability.
Yeah, I know the name.
Anyway, I reached out to her and I was like, hey, we speak the same language, you know, vulnerability. Yeah. But it was something that I too learned about 12 years ago. Is like, wow, vulnerability is like the thing. You have to have that.
We even had another expression that we had in our book called cognitive bypass. And the reason we came up with this idea, Scott, was when we did rediscover each other, and it happened very innocently. I one day thought about Poppy, and I said, whatever happened to her? And I Googled her maiden name, and it pops right up on Facebook, and it takes me to her website. And there's a phone number on her website for calling for free coaching consultations. And I just said, oh, what the heck? You know, what's the worst thing that could happen, Scott? You can blow me off again?
Yeah.
I just aired a podcast today, Go for No. That's the name of their book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a sales and business technique, but it's also, it applies to relationships.
Absolutely does. And so
at least if you get the no, you know where to go.
Next.
You know where you're at, sure.
Then you go next.
And so I just said, well, I said that the best case I could have imagined is, well, we'll both have a good laugh about the fact that here we are after 32 years, and we're both twice divorced and single. Whoever thought that would have happened, huh?
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
Well, I call her and I discovered very quickly that she never wanted to break up, that she's been looking for me 3 different times over these 30 years.
Oh, get out of here.
She was crazy about me too, and she never wanted any of this to happen. And I'm like, and instead of being...
I got to do some screen sharing here. Keep going.
Instead of being careful and cautious, you're going to bring up the picture?
Well, I'm going to bring you guys up. There's a happy couple. Because that's the whole point of video. I want to do some more screen sharing. And we've been having such a great conversation. I'm like, oh, man, but here we go. The 1 billion seconds.
You're right. 1 billion seconds is 32 years. That's what the name of the book came from.
Oh, nice math.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of a cool thing we discovered also by accident. But the point I was driving towards here is this idea of vulnerability. Neither Poppy or I, after I had this crushing incident 32 years ago, which also broke her heart, by the way. She didn't enjoy that either. It was very crushing for her as well.
Scott, true thing, I don't remember my college graduation. Undergraduate, I don't remember it.
It was so
oh, you were so mentally
it was
affected.
So traumatic.
Get out.
It was so traumatic because my assumptions were so completely wrong, and in that moment I couldn't rectify it.
Wow.
And so I couldn't wait. I never went back to school. I never wanted to go to a reunion. It was such a bad trigger.
So when both of us started actually talking, instead of doing what you might rationally think, oh, I got to be careful here because this didn't end well before. I don't want to put my heart out there and get exposed. Exactly the opposite happened. Both of us completely and totally opened up. We're completely vulnerable and realized that it was absolutely still there. And almost within minutes of our first conversation, we were like, well, why did we ever break up? This was great. And we quickly were on the phone every night.
Because of those two words, to us.
Yeah.
To us, right.
So, but cognitive bypass is something that we introduced in our book and have since trademarked it as well. And it's
you trademarked that too? Man,
yes, we did.
You guys are on it. I love it. I love it. From the business standpoint. It's good.
But doesn't cognitive bypass, I mean, doesn't it make you stop and pause and go, wait a minute, what is that?
Does that mean you're not going to think? And to a degree, it's yes, you're not going to think. You're going to let your heart speak and say what you're really feeling and what you really want to say. So, not being careful, not being cautious.
Not censoring or editing your words. Just
but see, that can be to a fault, can't it? Because sometimes I just say how it is, and then I'm like, it didn't really come out the right way.
Well, obviously, there's certain lines on that. But it comes to sharing your innermost feelings about someone that you've had something wonderful with, and it became very easy and obvious for both of us that it was all still there. And one of the things we discovered is that we had actually never fallen out of love. We went from great to broken up in one conversation.
Wow.
Nothing was wrong. There was never any hardship or anything being wrong.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
I mean, that's a weird word to use. We're talking about psychology today, but I mean, it's just, that's wild. It's wild.
It is.
I think it's great. It's funny because when I dug deeper into myself too, I love where we're going with this, because I think the listeners hearing this, like we're basically hearing an amazing love story that should never have broken up, but obviously needed to, because I mean, look what you've created out of it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you've rebuilt the relationship that technically almost never even ended, really, the way I'm hearing it.
Right.
And then you realize that there's a story to be told. You got the 1 billion thing going on. Great math. I love that. You're redoing a clock, you're trademarking stuff. And the fact that you two click that well and just communicate that well. I mean, there's going to be people hearing this and watching this right now. They're like, come on, these guys got to get into like a disagreement once in a while. I mean, I don't know.
And we do, but one of the things that we do is we immediately.
Yeah, we have stuff all the time.
We resolve it. We get to exactly what the problem is if we can. One of the things I often say to Poppy is that sometimes being a guy, we're not so bright sometimes.
Oh no.
And we need to process a little bit and to figure out what that is, because sometimes it is an old tape. It is an old thing from someone else that you get just.
It's old recordings that are still deep seated.
Old recordings that just got popped up there out of nowhere. And it's like, whoa, that didn't apply to Poppy. That was somebody else. Don't make her pay for someone else's crimes.
Well, and one thing, I always go back to psychology, and I have to catch myself whenever I'm doing these things like you're just discussing there, is that it Poppy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he just hinted at it. Us guys, maybe it's just the way we're wired. We get focused on one thing and we're all in.
Yep.
Whereas you ladies, you could flip, like multitask, switch so guys like, oh yeah, I'm a multitasking fiend. And I'm like, actually, psychologically, women are better at it.
Oh, way better.
This is why there's so many powerful female executives right now. They can just, boom. No.
So women biologically have close to 934 more synapses in their brains than men. And they have those there by either Darwinian theory or God or whoever our creator is.
Right.
Because so that women can be attuned to their offspring. And they can hear those nuances and everything else. So I always give guys a hall pass on that when they say, I didn't think about that. I didn't see those nuances that you're seeing. And I was like, hey, well, I have 900 more synapses than you do, so don't worry about it.
Well, it's funny because during the breakup phase and after the breakup phase, and when I basically wooed her back to us going at it again.
Because you're a woo.
I'm a really good sales professional.
For everybody else, strengths finders, woo is winning others over. If that's your strength, hey, you got it.
It was actually my top strength. Actually, and I just redid the test again. I haven't done it in years. I redid it again for my client. So I was doing it with them and the team. And again, woo and positivity, the top two, still after all these years. So
those are my two also.
Oh, that's interesting.
So funny.
Yeah. But see, the thing was this post breakup and pulling literally, I say this now to everybody, pardon my French, but I had to pull my head out of my ass.
Yes.
The head was so far up there, I was eclipsing myself. And and people, and the funny thing is when I tell that to ladies, especially nowadays, they're like, do you know how refreshing that is?
Yes, sure. Of course.
So now, admittedly, sometimes I bring it up just to embarrass myself, just to earn points. I'm like, see, babe, I'll tell anybody I'm an idiot. It's okay. There you go.
Well, I say this all the time too, Scott. They say, what was your excuse for why you broke up? I go, well, I was a 21-year-old guy, therefore a moron, you know?
Yep.
And I've never yet had a woman argue with me about that.
And to be fair, I'm 40 now, but I'm just now a different phase of a moron.
Right.
I think that's the most important part too. I learned over the years and through that phase is like, it's okay. Like there's no such thing as perfection. That's if you took one thing out of all the personal, professional development, deep dive stuff I've done, getting away from this perfection thing, even me saying those words, Kristen's actually caught me a few times. Like, Scott, she's like, I stopped trying to be perfect. She's like, every once in a while that still comes out of your vernacular. She's like, stop it. Because she's a very smart girl. You asked Poppy, like, she went to Cornell for veterinary, then went to UPenn for her doctorate. So she's an equine horse vet doctor, and she's a doctor of chiropractic for animals. So I got a smart girl. It's
wow.
And the funny thing was, when I met her, she already knew who my family was because I grew up in farming, and my dad is a broker, but he was also a transporter of livestock. So when one of her farms had an issue with a horse, she would call Tom Mulvaney. So when I met her, she's like, on the very first date, the glass of wine, she's like, so you any relation to Tom Mulvaney? And like walls went right up. I was like,
oh boy.
Yeah, that's my dad. Why do you ask? And she's like, well, I'm a veterinary doctor and I've worked with your father. And I was like, oh God,
boy.
That freaked me out.
Shields
up. Full force field. So yeah, I had a lot of mental game that I had to get over. By the way, you'll appreciate this. I found my old, you asked Geoff what I was using.
Okay.
I found my folder. Oh, that's not the one. 1 second. I found my folder on my Google Drive. I never got rid of it. See this folder here called Psychology Relationships? Hold on.
I have to get my glasses on.
Yes,
Sorry,
I can see it.
It's okay.
I'm being
actually, I need to, let me stop share and restart the share. It was paused. 1 second. I found it. I never deleted this stuff in case I had a friend who ever struggled. So here, Psychology Relationships.
Okay.
I have 1.5 gigs of all this stuff in here. So
wow.
So I bought into programs called AMP, apparently, Text Romance Back, Get X Back, Text X Back, The X Factor. These are all the different programs.
You got Napoleon Rich.
I use Think and Grow Rich in there, right? So I haven't gone into this stuff in. Hold on, what's the date on these? 1 second.
That's so funny.
I don't know if it actually has the original dates on these, but I gotta find out. I gotta look. I just figured you guys appreciate this. So yeah, I went through a number of programs. This is all. I moved this onto my shared drive, so it doesn't have the original dates. Okay. So, long story short, yeah, I took my learning brain, my love of self and personal and professional development, and said, all right, I need to get this thing figured out. Like, why are you being so weird about this? I needed to learn about myself.
Wow.
And to this day,
a great thing, because most guys will not take that step in their lives and their development. They're quite happy being, that's who I am.
Well, one of those programs, they said, listen, there's always two people at fault, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, but the sooner you could take accountability and own your crap first.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
then worry about the other side of the equation. So her issue was she spent 8 years swallowing crap from her last idiot. I was becoming the new idiot
Sure.
because I was not opening myself up, not letting the vulnerability happen, not letting her into my life. And then also through my self-work, I realized I had issues with financial. I grew up differently. She has no debt, other than a little bit of school debt. Like, she grew up in a different financial mindset. I was allowing that to manifest into my decision-making process, that we were opposites and all this stuff. So all this stuff. And obviously I'm skipping over a lot, but I wanted to give you more of that.
I have a book. Hopefully Kristen won't be listening right now. Right?
She doesn't listen. No, she's at a concert in Philadelphia. I dropped her off to meet friends hours ago. Riding Between the Worlds. Is that a horse? Is that on Audible?
I have given this book out 11 times. I have bought this book. Linda Kohanov, Kohanov.
Okay.
Expanding Our Potential Through the Way of the Horse. It is like beyond horse whispering. It is so awesome.
Really?
That if she doesn't have that book.
What was so the exact name was Riding
Between the Worlds.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have this stuff linked in the show notes, obviously.
Yes.
So Riding Between the Worlds.
So many points here, Scott. You'll just be off the chart here.
This happens all the time.
Prime tonight. You have to get it, have it delivered tomorrow, whatever.
Well, if it's on Audible, I actually convinced her to start getting into Audible more. So she shares my Audible account, and she's crushing more books than I do now.
There's another great book on Audible, by the way. It's called 1 Billion Seconds, recorded by Poppy and Geoff Spencer.
Thank you. I was going to ask you before the end of the show, because I travel so much for business that I don't have time to sit down and physically read books.
Yes,
so I will sometimes buy the physical just to go back and reference stuff after I've listened to it.
Same. That's what we do too.
One of the things you'll note now that you've gotten to know us, when you get to the parts where like we break up and where we find each other again, you will hear the emotion in our voices, because we can't help but get caught up in that emotion again.
See, that's what I'm going to just real quick. I want to screen share that other book while we're talking. Again, ladies and gentlemen, Riding Between the Worlds by Linda, is that Kohanov?
I think so.
Okay. So Expanding Our Potential Through the Way of the Horse. There we go. But yeah, so I love it when authors do their own audio, because it's not a professional voiceover person just reading words and trying to guess where the the expression is supposed to be.
The intonation, right.
Right. Like, come on, guys. It's just too.
Especially when it's your personal story. This was our journey, and no one else knows that and can feel that like we can.
No, absolutely not. And I love that.
We both feel we have voices that are appropriate for kind of recording and doing that. And I actually do the voice. The book is told by Jesse.
A fictional entity.
Jesse is a fictional person who is, I'm going to pull out the book here. Yeah.
There you go.
Jesse is a relational choreographer, sort of like a guardian angel, and is assigned to us as a couple back in Rollins and in our college days, and takes, we let you choose the gender too, by the way, Scott. So
really?
Jesse takes his or her eye off the target, because we're so perfect together that Jesse doesn't even pay attention to us until graduation. They're like, oh, whoops, she's graduating and he's not. Oh no.
Okay.
We kind of felt like we had some sort of divine intervention, however you want to look at it. So
reason we say
created
that
Jesse.
Poppy tried 3 different times to find me over those 3 decades. And if she had actually, thank you for if she'd actually had found me, I would have had to say, nice talking to you, but I'm not in any kind of position to be, rekindling a romance with you. I'm just got married. I'm in a relationship. I have a child. I just was born. So that none of those times would have worked.
Huh.
So,
and that's in this book too.
And the one time I did reach out to Poppy was the exact right time to when she was available and I was available. And the only time after 32 years where that happened is the time that I reached out.
I love that.
We do say, Scott, that maybe we were only supposed to be together right now.
Great way to put that.
We've talked about this a lot, that we think there's a parallel universe somewhere that we actually have been together.
Did you ever watch Fringe?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we said maybe
that's,
we had like
and Fringe, where there's another Poppy and Geoff that have been together the whole time. We're gonna.
Well, I mean, multiple dimensions, whatever. I mean,
yeah,
there's all kinds of potential science around that. So
we're big into law of attraction, positive psychology.
Oh, I joke around this show all the time, and once in a while we talk about like The Secret and stuff like that. Sure. And people are like, dude, the first time my buddy made me watch that movie years ago, and I'm watching it, I'm like, what is this hokey, weird stuff?
This voodoo.
But if I reference it now, I tell people as we're all at a different place in the timeline. Mm-hmm. This is a saying that I've been using a lot over the past few months, whether it be health, fitness, lifestyle, your relationship experience, right? Like I was clearly a rookie on the relationship timeline, but again, back to The Secret. Like now I have that book saved in my Audible library. And then no less than once a year, I make myself go back, listen to it again, just to see if somebody clicks differently.
Oh, it should.
Somebody notices more. It should, right? So, well, I mean, there's still some weird stuff, but
Esther and Jerry Hicks are really the go-to people for that. I know Rhonda Byrne wrote The Secret and and all that, but Esther and Jerry Hicks are really the trailblazers that started The Secret so many years ago, and because of that, I mean, we have Jack Canfield endorsing our book. We are buddies with him.
That's a big win. I got to meet Jack. That guy's legit.
Yeah, we were at his
We spent
house
2 days at his home in a mastermind retreat, and
I'm jealous.
Incredible. It was great.
He was awesome, and he's an awesome guy, and so he we can speak that language.
Wow.
Pretty well.
Yeah, and Jack brings together at this retreat. It was all kinds of people with those kind of stories too. Every single one of the people there had one of these gotten over something, overcome huge odds, health, whatever it might have been, and Jack just very nonchalant about that's what you can do when you have all the right things behind you, and law of attraction's playing in your favor, and you're using it. We both walked out of there going, wow, what anyone can achieve is so far beyond what any of us can imagine.
Right. Well, again, it goes back to that mental energy. Mm-hmm. It's when you shift your energy, it's not like, oh, I'm going to chant that I want a Corvette and be debt free and it's just going to happen.
Right.
No, you're shifting the energy and your mindset through repetition. So then the work you put forth moving forward is moving you in that direction.
Correct.
So you still have to work hard. You still have to earn it. You still got to, build the road to drive down it. But the problem is if your mental energy is completely messed up and your mindset's messed up, it goes back to the relationship piece. Granted, those 3 months of the self-work, that was just to get the door back open.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And half of those programs that I read, they kept telling me, dude, the door's closed. In a female psychology, like when they slam that door, it's like a light switch going off. Trying to get that light switch going back on, it's very rare.
Okay, so this begs the question now. So you did all that work. How did you open that door again?
I invited her out for a cup of tea.
Oh, I like it. No wine. Don't get her wasted.
I was like, I never invited anybody to a cup of tea in my life. Even she's like, that was weird, by the way. And I'm like,
good.
Got you to come.
Yeah.
And granted, I was doing some of that, text the love back. I was starting to, because the biggest thing was, it wasn't about me, it was about her.
Right.
Like I now own like nice, like linen paper stock, and I handwrite stuff to her now. Beautiful. I was doing that to help, but I still do it. So, but there's some things that I've always done. Like I still open the door for her all the time. My dad taught me that. I'll still get flowers occasionally, but they have to mean something. I don't just get her roses like a lot of guys do. Like she doesn't even like roses.
Can I stop you on that thing?
Yeah.
That's where we mentioned before the love languages.
Okay.
Another thing you need to research and study. We actually had a podcast.
I'm going to make a note.
I'd suggest you listen to it.
Pull up our podcast. You can check it with Gary Chapman.
Gary Chapman, who's the author of The Love Languages.
33, maybe.
Do you put them all on your website too?
Yes.
Yeah, they're under podcasts. I can.
But anyways, The Love Languages. This is so important for any guys listening, because all of us think, hey, if I want to score points, I just run out and buy flowers, right? And that can be
Nope.
a huge wrong according to what the love language of your significant other is.
And look at you, you're left-handed, so you're automatically super creative.
Yep.
So scroll down a little bit. We're working on this website, and it's
Oh, here we go. Do I click here?
Yeah.
We call it the relationship restaurant, the place where you can go
I like that.
and relax and talk about relationships.
We used to have a radio show, a local radio show here last year, and
we're in Sarasota, Florida, by the way, if we haven't
we
said
wanted
that.
to have a broader audience.
Another great one there too, the Myers Briggs one. That's a great one. Go other direction, go back uphill. It's like 30.
Well, the first one, 35, there was the Myers Briggs.
Sorry, okay, go back downhill. And
okay. And where do you want me to go to?
Keep going. It's on that page, I think.
Energy type?
Nope. Keep going, because you'll see below this one.
Keep going down.
Oh,
that's a
next.
cool one.
I had Manny on the show.
Isn't he great?
He's so great.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's after Mr. Rogers.
We didn't have
5 love languages. Here we go. Episode 30.
Yes.
There you go.
But Gary's the author of this book, and it is a huge international bestseller. And it talks about how everybody has 5 different. There's 5 different love languages that any of us can have.
And Scott, you could probably even know it without even taking his little mini quiz. It's acts of service, words of affirmation, gift giving, physical touch, or quality time. So of those 5 things, which one do you think most resonates with you?
Well, for me and her?
No, just for you.
Just for you. What do you like?
Let me hit this again. What were we saying? The 5 were again? Sorry.
So words.
I was actually thinking about for her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I already picked one out for her. It's quality
time. Which is very important.
Yeah.
Okay. So words of affirmation, gift giving, quality time, physical touch, or what did I miss? Acts of service.
Acts of service.
The funny thing is I really started geeking out about affirmations over the past year. But earlier I think there was a piece, not to dwell on physical intimacy, but spending so many years in brief surface level relationships, like that was something that I had to learn about too, was it's not just about sex, people.
No.
Okay.
Right.
Nope.
There is a whole different level of depth and sexual connectivity when you're in the moment. And I think I noticed that as our relationship fizzled at the end of that year, it was you could tell, like now, once I went through the self-work, I'm like, holy crap, those last couple of months, I thought it was me. Well, it was me, but it was me affecting her. She was unplugging. She was disconnecting. She was distancing herself. We were not both in it to win it, so to speak, because of what I was doing.
Right.
So, but again,
that's
back to my earlier
insight.
Back to my earlier point.
Yeah.
Was I said how it takes 2 to tango. You'll appreciate this. I realized, and I got her to admit, she can't stand confrontation.
Oh, okay, good. Conflict avoider.
Whereas I bring it. I love it. Like I'm a debater. I will get in it. I'm like, I'm in it to win it. I've been in sales and marketing my whole life. Like, let's do this. So she and I had that opposite.
Right? You literally went to the fire.
Yeah. But I asked her when we started getting back together, I said, listen, I need to count on you to hold me accountable, and that don't run away. Don't allow it to build to what it did. Right? Yeah. Like talk to me. Like you need to open up. I want you to talk to me because I'm willing to listen, even if I am a pain in the butt. So
1 o'clock, confusion. There's something bugging me. It's something little.
Yeah.
That's when you have to talk about it.
That's when you start talking right there. When you don't, that's when things get bad. And when you
see, this is awesome. I love this. Yeah. So I knew we were gonna have fun today.
So did we. We always do.
So, so love language. So what do you think your love language is? You think it was words of affirmation, but you think it might be different now?
No, it's been more affirmation these days. In the beginning, it was more of the physical. I think for me, the physical touch. I just noticed it. Like once I allowed myself to pay attention, and you notice like there's a different level of connectivity from a physical touch when you're actually allowing it all to happen, and the walls aren't up, the vulnerability's there. It was a whole different level of connectivity. It was electrifying.
So what do you think Kristen's love language is?
What is hers?
Oh, right off the bat was be here, be now in the moment.
So
Like,
quality time.
Quality time's huge. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm just so go.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong. She does like it when I'm away on business. And I tell people this all the time is that you need to miss each other too once in a while.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know about you two, but at least in my world.
After 32 years of missing, we're trying to avoid
That's a
that.
good point. Yeah. You got a very, very good point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm always doing so many things. I have to catch myself and say, oh, I can't make the excuse of, sorry, baby, I got 2 podcasts to do tonight. I'll get to you later. It's like, all right, pause, even if it's for 5 seconds.
Yes.
And be in that moment.
A text.
And be attentive. Be attentive. Right. So and still remembering to do I do the little texting like "love you, baby." It's not just casual surface level stuff. It's
right.
Yeah. So attentiveness.
Well, we won't talk about Geoff's texting because I'll be like, and then I get back.
Okay.
Nice. And then I go.
But it's important for me to say that because if I don't respond, she'll say, "Why didn't you respond?" It's like, because there's nothing I have to say. You covered it all. I just have to go. Okay. Message received.
One of the things that when going back to what your mission is all about in your show is when we did get back together, both of us could have immediately closed up. We both came from 2 previous marriages and divorces. I have 4 children. Geoff has 1 child.
Wow.
We had so many people that were throwing caution flags at us all the time, right? What about this? What, he lives in another state? What about your kids?
What about the kid?
What if they don't like him? What if? And using that positivity, law of attraction, nothing was really an obstacle.
It was the easiest thing that either of us have ever done in our lives. The thing that people could have said would be like, she lives. I was living in the Charlotte, North Carolina area.
Yeah.
And I had to move and everything. And people were like, oh my gosh, you can't move. You can't move from here, your life here, your kid. I was like, yes, we absolutely can. And it would all fit together perfectly and easily and wonderfully.
It just
when you put your mind to it, anything can happen.
Yeah. And our kids, I mean, we've been interviewed on other radio and TV. And I remember somebody asked me, well, what about your kids? Hey, if any of my 4 kids did not like Geoff, we would not be married.
Sure. Yeah, because family always comes first.
Oh, yeah. And we said that before we got married. It was like, you should put your husband first. And it was like, nope. In this situation, my
Scott,
kids
it was
came first.
Easy though, man. It was easy. The reason was the 2 eldest daughters, when they heard it was me, they go, wait a second, this is that guy whose heart you broke?
Yeah.
That you were crazy about? It's him?
Yeah.
Oh, they were like doing backflips over this. They were.
That's awesome.
The really cool thing is that this past Mother's Day, because we had a big challenge with one of my kids and Geoff's son.
The boys.
And
of course.
We, 7 years ago, we brought him from North Carolina to finish school, and
he was floundering in the college he was attending.
Oh,
and
okay.
So I said, well, let me have at it. I've taught these college-age kids for many years, and I taught psychology, and let's work on this. So we had a really tough love time for a couple of years.
Very tough love.
I had my parenting.
That's where you learn the most, though.
Yeah.
I had a parenting certification from Wisconsin, and we just applied it. And I said, I promise you, I'm not doing this because you're a stepchild, or you can ask my son. He goes, oh no, I've heard all the stories. So I said, you can, whether you're blood or not, this is the way the parameters are and the structure. And just this past Mother's Day, I got the most beautiful text message from him he said, I don't say it enough, but thank you so much for whipping me into shape when I was sarcastic and a pain in the neck, and and thank you for giving that tough love, because I wouldn't be who I am today without you. I mean, it was like,
that's beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Scott, do you ever sing to your fiance, Kristen?
Oh God, no.
But no, don't say you can't. You could.
No, I'm not saying I wouldn't, but trust me, it's she's not that kind of girl.
You've got a great speaking voice. I'm going to assume you have a good singing voice.
I used to sing when I was a kid. Like, I don't know, like, because I think back in the day, they used to have, was it chorus or whatever they called that?
Yeah,
Sure.
I don't
right.
know.
Glee Club.
There, yeah, it wasn't Glee Club, but I think it was,
Okay.
I don't know.
It was
That's
chorus,
so long ago.
yeah.
It's probably not a good idea. No,
That was one of the ways that I won back Poppy too in a very fast fashion. I had recorded a CD of some Nat King Cole music. I've done lifelong singing, and one of the songs I discovered that I had changed the words from when I originally recorded it, and the original words were, "Maybe I'm old-fashioned, feeling like I do. Maybe I am living in the past, but when I meet the right one, I know that I'll be true. My first love will be my last.
wow.
When I fall in love, it will be forever, or
You know that
I'll
song.
never fall in
I know that
love."
song. Yeah.
Okay.
You know the song.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I know the song. It's beautiful. Smart move though. Nice moves. Nice, like that.
Yeah, he was.
Now my
Talking
game was thinking things outside the box, something like just trying to get her in a neutral territory, go for a cup of tea, just have a conversation, sending physical love letters. I even did something. She still has them. One of the things I studied, like they said, create love coupons, like
Oh, yeah.
IOUs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And because I never did anything for her and her home, this was her first home she bought that we now both live in. But I never like was willing to do like any of her chores with her because I was like,
Oh wow.
it was the first year. I was like, I was such a jerk. Anyway, so I
Scott,
made.
we need to write a book here right now.
Yeah.
Guy romance for idiots, guys. You know.
Yeah, I made love coupons. I took them to Staples. I had them professionally laminated. They were printed in
Perfect.
color, and she still makes fun of that to this day.
I
And she
love
still
it.
has a few that she hasn't used. And I was
Well
like,
done.
it impacted you enough to still make fun of me to this day about me using it.
Yeah,
So
No,
it was
it's
brilliant,
awesome.
brilliant.
well, and then when I proposed to her, she never expected that because I said, I will never get married. I don't need to get married.
Oh.
Marriage is BS, blah, 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 blah. And then eventually, my own brain just changed like, wait a minute, what if I did do that? It would blow her mind. So I did. And then,
So why did you get married?
we're not married yet. Sorry, engaged.
I mean, why? I mean, when you do, why?
Because all those years of adventures were awesome and they were amazing experiences, but I found myself always wanting to do adventures with friends or other people. I'm a very social person.
Right.
Mhm.
So it's like, well, once you realize that you could reach a whole different level of depth with your significant other, sharing the, and at first I realized I can't do every adventure with her,
Mhm.
but if I can just get a couple here and there throughout the year with her and we share that experience together. So just realizing that, wow, how cool would it be to actually have a partner who wants to do all the crazy stuff with you and maybe even suggest things that you never even thought of, which like back in November, we went to South Africa. I never would have thought about going to South Africa.
Wow.
Like that was her idea. So just, that was the epiphany. And then I said, all right, well, I go skydiving and do all this other crazy stuff. So I decided to propose to her after skydiving.
I love it.
So, and then the universe still tried challenging me on that because they grounded our plane as we're all strapped up, ready to go because of high winds. And and we were supposed to do a surprise after party at the winery down the road. So, the head jumper guy, because nobody knows, not even my friends, nobody knows I'm going to do this. It was all supposed to be a giant surprise.
Was it a tandem jump or?
Yeah, just tandem jumping.
Yeah, okay.
But they were gonna throw me out first. That way, I'm already on the ground. They can run the ring out to me, do all that, and have her come out last. Anyway, that whole Mother Nature stepped in. So I was like, all right. So I was like, it's happening down the road at the winery. So I'm texting the other friends that are already there to surprise her for the after party. Like, guys, hide the flowers. On the drive over, I'm just gonna, hey, so-and-so just texted to say they decided to come join us for a wine tasting to justify why there's like 8 other people there besides the 6 people that were jumping with us. So yeah, it was a whole.
That is awesome.
Had to call an audible.
Call an audible.
Sure.
I see. I love a challenge. So
Yeah.
that's it. That's the brief story on that. But
So Mother Nature knew that you liked this challenge.
I think so. She's crazy like that.
So when do you have a plan of when you're going to get married?
Oh, everything's already committed. Yeah. So it's going to be in Banff, Canada.
In the wintertime.
wintertime, March, because we're both big skiers.
Right.
It's a March wedding, and we've already booked the helicopters. We're going heli skiing. So
Right.
Oh my gosh.
So. No tuxedo, no dress. Like, we're gonna get some new ski outfits. That's really, and now there's like 40 people now coming up to that. So
Great.
yeah. So we're gonna jump out of, they don't let us jump out of the helicopters. I would, but they'll land on a remote mountain. We'll climb out, and then we'll go ski the backcountry, and then we'll do like the little ring thing on actual resort property. That way everybody can be there. I wanted to do it on a remote mountaintop, but they said that's not fair because one of the helicopters, our helicopter's going to the crazy mountains, and then the other one's going to go to the more of the intermediate mountains. So I thought this would be easy, but
Okay, so before you get married, I want you to confirm love languages.
I have it.
Let's get your Myers Briggs. Let's get you.
I haven't done that in years. I have to do that again.
I know. I could probably guess.
We've written a lot of articles about how that applies in not just work environments, but in relationships.
So we work with, and it's a plug for them, the CPP. They're the Myers Briggs company.
Oh yeah.
And where I got my certification, they're awesome people. Love the team members there, and we're sort of working with them on the personal side of that, not just in the corporate world.
Cool.
So
in fact, we have, when you went through the podcast, one of them was a representative from CPP we had on because.
Well, like I said, I'm literally traveling tomorrow, so I'll be downloading this episode tonight so I can dig into more of your content. So
good.
But learning the Myers Briggs of yourself and your partner or whoever you're dealing with, if you can understand them, like if I think you're probably a pretty spontaneous person.
Yes.
And I'm not sure about Kristen. Does she like to have everything set out and right?
Yes.
So that's going to frustrate her a little bit. So we can help you with ways to work around that.
Oh yeah, we've been learning a lot about that.
Okay. So and because there's something wonderful about being spontaneous, and
oh yeah,
and they're either judgers or perceivers. Those are the last letters of the Myers Briggs.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that you're a perceiver, that you have a strong preference for that. These are all preferences. We use all of them, but we have our handedness, we have a preference for it.
Yeah.
But all of your adventuring and spontaneity and everything else sort of yields itself to.
In fact, Poppy and I have a very good friend who is very much like you. And because of him, I've done skydiving, deep sea diving, high performance barefoot water skiing.
Nice.
Black diamond skiing. What about hang gliding? I didn't get to do the bungee jump that he wanted to do. I wasn't available.
And his spouse is a nurse who's very regimented and structured and everything else. And so they make it work well. But every now and then she needs to rein him in. And likewise, he needs to lighten her up a little bit.
Yep.
So
that sounds like us.
It works out really well.
It's like no merger is perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. It's about realizing you can find the balance between the wins and I don't even want to call them losses. I'll just say them opportunities to improve.
Right.
And when you realize that, instead of me, like that was me before, like I was always like, oh, well, this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong. But like, oh, but look at all these amazing positives. Like how often do you find somebody who doesn't want kids like me, who is open to doing all these sports that you do? Like, come on. Oh, and she's got her act together financially and you don't. Like she could help you with that and figure that out.
Right.
Instead of seeing it as a lifestyle difference. It's like, wait a minute, that's an opportunity for you to improve because somebody's going to actually love you and care about you and want you to reach her level together. So a lot of growth. But listen, I have another podcast. So we're a little bit over, but listen, you guys are the guest co-hosts. So if you've listened to the show before, you guys have the final word. And I know we've talked about so much tonight and my show notes are going to be so much fun. But like, how would you want to sum all this up? Like, is there right now for 2018, is there an all-encompassing message you're putting out there to the universe or to people out there?
I think you did it. Your journey to vulnerability, to opening your heart, I think is it. That is the thing that makes the relationships click. That's what makes them work. And that's what guys especially struggle with, that journey that you had is so significant. And now you have a great relationship and moving towards a wonderful marriage because of that.
And I still struggle with it. That's the most important thing.
Having the courage to be vulnerable on a daily basis. That's it.
Yeah.
You were willing to suck it up and said, hey, pal, you got to figure this stuff out.
And even if people don't know what to say, because sometimes, I understand in theory what that means. I have the courage to be vulnerable. Then you just start with that. If you have something that's bugging you, nagging you, anybody that's out there, whether it's with your significant other or a coworker, hey, I'm not really sure what's going on, but I have this pit in my stomach. I'm not really sure. Can you help me with this? And here's what I am. My words may not make sense, but just bear with me and let's see if we can brainstorm together. What's going on? There you go.
Love that. There you go. Listen, hang tight. You probably goodbye off the air. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, guys, come on. I mean, this is probably the most unique episode I've done yet. I did a lot of them, but I get more and more vulnerable every time on every new episode. But I think they brought more of it out of me than I'm used to, and I love it. So make sure you check them out at Poppy, Poppy, and Geoff, G as in George, EOFF.com. Check out the podcast because I'll be listening tomorrow. Check out the books we talked about today. Everything's going to be listed in the blog post on the website. So you have no excuse to not keep on growing. And as we just confirmed, get a little vulnerable. Even I figured it out. Come on, guys. All right. Well, thanks for listening to another powerful Live the Fuel show. Again, we're here to fuel your health, business, and lifestyle. We clearly did that today, and you guys clearly learned a lot more about me than I'm used to talking about. So thanks for listening. And again, poppyandjeff.com. Check them out, and we'll talk to you guys again soon. And remember, you too can live the fuel later. And you are free and clear. So.